Hello and welcome if you're new to my channel, and if you're a subscriber, a warm welcome back. This video is part of the viewer comment response series where I respond to a comment made by a viewer against one of my videos. And I respond via my channel purely because I feel the response will be of interest to a good number of my viewers. And the particular comment for this video is, "This is a great segment. Thank you." The segment the viewer is referring to is the Hierarchy of Handbags series. I'm going to include the playlist for that series directly above. When you talk about quality, could you also give some tips on how to assess quality? What are the visible markers that regular consumers can look for with regards to quality of materials and workmanship? I'm Anesu Sagonda, and I produce educational luxury content for anyone after the finer things. So whether you're someone who is young and starting out and wanting to reap the benefits of buying quality from the get-go, or you're new to money and wanting to learn how to navigate the terrain, or you're someone who's into luxury but you want to focus more on the brands that operate very much under the radar and heavily weighted on quality, then my content is very much geared towards you. I'm going to split this video into two. The first part, I'll just talk broadly about quality, what you need to consider generally. And then the second part, I will go into a lot more detail and talk specifically about what you need to consider when you are looking at an individual bag. Looking broadly, there are certain brands that dominate the top end of the market when it comes to quality, and it's assured quality, and their products vouch for their quality. The quality test has been done for you. So think of brands such as Hermes, Velextra, Moynard, Delvaux. But I am aware those brands at the very top end of the market and not available. They price themselves out to the majority, but they are assured quality. The other thing to consider is whether a bag is colored. Whether it's from Hermes or Kate Spade, a colored bag is going to experience wear and tear. But how badly it wears and tears, or how slow that is, will depend on how you treat the bag, how are you protecting it. You have brands such as Moynard, you have Hermes, Louis Vuitton. They'll provide raincoats for their bags, which I always recommend popping that on when you're out in the rain. That way you avoid any water damage. But with most brands, they'll always recommend products to put on their bags to protect them, just to give them a bit of a pick-me-up if they have been dried out in the sun or experienced any water damage, or just to give them a little TLC, just to make sure the leather is staying in very good condition. The other thing to consider is, where are you buying the bag from? What you will find with certain brands, not all, is that their end of season stuff will typically go to an outlet. But what they will also do is they will produce products, handbags, clothes, whatever it may be, specifically for an outlet, but you will find the quality of those products is not as good as the mainline store. So that's just something for you to always be aware of when you're in an outlet. The other thing for you to consider is the material of the bag. I will always say leather. Leather is king. It's the very best material when it comes to bags. And if it's good quality leather, I'm talking a full grain, I'm talking aniline, you look after it, it'll get better with time. It becomes a lot more supple, it softens, and it develops that beautiful patina. People typically buy natural leather for your aniline leather for that patina, that soft sheen. As the leather darkens, it ages, and the bag becomes a lot more beautiful. So that's just something for you to be aware of. Leather all the way, but you also get other materials. You have fabric bags. All through the pandemic, the last year and a half, I've been using fabric bags, and one in particular. And I noticed a couple of weeks ago, I put a set of keys in a pocket and they fell out. And I thought, oh, what happened to the keys? And then I realized the material had worn through. So depending on how thick the material is, they are going to wear through at some point. You'll get especially pressure points where either they're under your arm, or the way you carry them, or what you put in there, or the weight, they will start to tear. The material will start to thin out. Also things like, for example, your canvas. You have brands like Goyard with the Saint Louis, you have Louis Vuitton with the Neverfull, different levels of thickness where it's typically coated leather. And then as it wears over time, it thins out, and it's very difficult to repair your canvas bags. But a brand for you to get on your radar with really thick, robust, the thickest canvas, which I really like, is a brand called Moreau. You also have plastic bags which will wear over time, and you'll find, especially the pressure points, the stitching will start to run through, and the handles will start to run through. You'll just get wear and tear coming through, and the bags start to fall apart. But a well-made leather bag, you'll typically find, will stand the test of time and just get better with time. I'm going to look at the specific details that you need to consider when you look at a particular bag. There are three variables that I refer to as the trilogy. They are the leather, the craftsmanship, and the hardware. Those three variables need to come together at a very high level. You wouldn't get a situation, for example, where a brand would spend a lot of money on very good quality leather and then they use the shoddiest craftsmanship or really poor quality hardware. It just wouldn't make sense. You will find that they will use the best of all three. So looking specifically at leather, for example, the finest quality leather is your full grain leather, which I mentioned earlier, and it's essentially the top part of an animal's hide. You take away the hair and it's almost what I can call the blank canvas. So everything that the animal went through when it was alive, any scuffs, any marks, any tears, its diet is reflected in that, weather elements it experienced, everything is reflected in that full grain leather. You're buying it for that character of what the animal went through. And throw into it the fact that it's fairly thick, and you will find full grain leather bags are more expensive because the artisans charge a premium for working through that thick leather. But you're essentially buying leather that's very good quality. As it gets older, it ages, it gets better and better. It develops the patina that I mentioned. And so you're paying for that quality when you come to full grain leather. On par with that, I'd also like to recommend your calf skin. Exactly the same, except it's from a calf. It's going to be a little softer. It's going to be supple. Calf skin also holds its shape very well, and it's waterproof. It's lightweight, it's not as heavy as your full grain, but what you'll find is it's not as durable, and it's a little more delicate from my own experience. What I would recommend is your everyday bags would be more your full grain. It's a lot more robust, it's durable, it's sturdy. Whereas your occasion bags, I'd be more inclined to recommend your calf skin, but it depends entirely on the quality, on the brand. You do get calf skin that can be fairly robust, but I know from my own experience it gets softer with time, and it also marks quite easily. But you just need to give that mark a wipe and you'll find it disappears. But again, it depends on how deep or abrasive that mark is. And then below that, you have what's called top grain leather under your full grain leather. This is where the hide has been split, it's been buffed, it's been sanded down, it's been altered. And what happens is the brand is able to create a consistent, flawless product. For example, a colored bag with prints, designs, different textures. They can alter it to such an extent that you're not able to do on your full grain leather. So think of, for example, Tory Burch. I'm going to attach the video above, and one of their best-selling line, in fact their best-selling line at the moment, the Double Lee from the Lee Radziwill collection. It's all about the color, the textures, the styles, the designs. It's a bold selection of bags, and that is your top grain. But what you'll find is most bags in the market tend to be top grain. As you go up the levels, so I'm talking premium core, super premium, ultra high-end, bespoke, you will find that they start to use more of your calf skin and full grain. And brands will specify what they have used. They want to show off. They're proud. And where it's also come from, for example, Italy, Spain, the United Kingdom, or France, particularly areas that are legendary for the craftsmanship when it comes to your bag making. Then the next thing you need to consider is the craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is split into two: where the bag is made, the region, and also how the bag is made. So you have regions which I've just mentioned that are legendary for their craftsmanship, and also the leather that will typically come from there. And then take it a step further, if the hide has been processed in a tannery that's very well known, brands will highlight this. They want to show this off. It's their unique selling point. It's how they pull consumers to themselves. When it comes to how it's made, it's handmade all the way. I am the biggest advocate of handmade bags because you are able to create as flawless a product as possible. The stitching is very neat, it's even. You're also able to either increase or loosen the tension of the stitching depending on which part of the bag you are stitching. And you can also do stitches that reinforce the stitching that you can't typically do with your machine on the bag. So the quality of the leather has to be very high quality. It's handmade, and it's also made in regions that are legendary for the skilled craftsmen. And then the third option is the hardware. That's the icing on the cake. You have good leather, great craftsmanship, and then the hardware, whether it is poppers, fasteners, zippers, whatever it may be, it's what you use to typically close the bag or bring it all together. There are a number of brands that dominate the space. You have a mid-tier brand that's legendary, whether it is bags, it is jeans, trousers, jackets, anything with a zip, they do it fantastically well for the mid-tier. Japanese brand called YKK. If you see any of their branding on any of their hardware, YKK, for the mid-tier, it's as good as it gets. Moving up, more your designer brands, your artisanal top quality products. You have three brands, a Swiss Italian brand called Riri, and then two Italian brands, Lampo and Recagni. All three produce hardware at the top end of the market. And what they typically do is they either brand it as their own. So you'll see a bag, for example, with Riri on the zipper or the hardware, Recagni or Lampo. But what you tend to find with the designer brands is they will customize the branding and the product. That is what they're buying into. They're able to influence the size, the color, the style, and then they have their own unique branding, whether it's the brand's name or an initial B for Balenciaga or Chanel or Christian Dior, whatever it is, you'll typically find that on the zip if it doesn't have the brand name. That in itself, if it's not a branded bag, so it's not already Christian Dior or Chanel, but an artisanal brand, for example, you've come across in Italy, out sightseeing, and you see some bags and they have any one of those three brands as the hardware, I would buy that bag because the hardware is expensive and it's only artisans who are very confident of the quality of their products, complete products, who would buy good hardware. It's expensive, so they would match it up with good leather and also very good craftsmanship. And you will find the top three brands that I've mentioned create zips for most of the brands at the top end. You have Riri creating for Marc Jacobs, for example. You have Recagni with their legendary account with Tom Ford. And as you know, Tom Ford have the thick, chunky, heavy zips. They also produce zips for Christian Dior, Paul Smith, and Marbury. And then you have Lampo producing zips for Chanel, for Stella McCartney, Prada, for Balmain. And the other thing worth noting is that branded zips are a sign of authenticity. If you see, for example, Lampo produces zips for Chanel. If you turn over a Lampo zip, you'll see on the underside it's written Lampo. That in itself is one of a handful of indicators when it comes to authenticating how genuine a designer product is. But as you know, my channel is very much about buy better, buy less. I'm more inclined to say buy less bags, focus more on the quality than the quantity. And depending on your lifestyle, I'd always say have 5 very good bags. You have a good work bag, a good everyday bag, 2 occasion bags, and a travel bag, for example. And when you buy these bags, aim to buy the very best you can afford. Even if it means saving for a period of time, get the very best and you'll find full grain calfskin leather. As that bag ages, it just gets better and better. It develops the patina, it looks good, it wears well, and you just enjoy the beauty of that bag as it just ages with you. But the other thing I also wanted to highlight very quickly is show you a couple of bags that are about 15 and 20 years old. This particular bag is 20 years old. It's from Miu Miu. And I've mentioned Miu Miu before in my hierarchy of handbag series, and I said Miu Miu is more your occasion bag, and that's because I've been buying bags from Miu Miu for the past 20 years, but I've noticed a dip in the quality of the leather and also the craftsmanship, particularly in the last 5 years. But bags that I bought from them, let's say 20 years ago, like this for example, have aged incredibly well, and they're a testament to what I've been saying about just buying quality and you buy less. This is a calfskin bag. I've never done anything to it. Even when it's been rained on, it hasn't developed any water stains, and it's just developed the patina over the years. It's darkened slightly more on one side, but I've never treated it. It's just darkened, developed a very soft sheen. It's calfskin that's just continued to get softer over the years. And what I also like is just this whole concept of a really good quality zip. It's from Rakagni, and it's very swift and smooth in its movement. When you're buying hardware, good quality hardware, and particularly when you look at things like for zips, for example, you're buying into a movement that's very swift, that's smooth, and you don't have an issue where the zip stops at some point or it catches onto material. The lining inside is very well made. It's flat, it's neat. It doesn't come up into contact with the zip. And then when you also look at the lining, for example, when I look at this bag in particular, the lining is thick. The material is very good. I've never had any issues with it. I've never had it replaced, had it repaired. It has never frayed. It literally is bulletproof. The lining is very good quality. And when I first got this bag, I used it to death for about 5-6 years. And then over the years, I've used it less and less. More so, I'm being precious with it because I want it to be an heirloom. I want to pass it on in years to come. But the leather has just gotten better with time. The handles have never been replaced or frayed or started to split or tear. The leather is amazing. The lining is intact. But the other thing I wanted to show you was another Miu Miu bag, and this is a bag from 15 years ago. In their legendary Matelasi, again, it's aged beautifully over the years. But I had this repaired about 5 years ago, and they changed the lining. And when it came back, I noticed straight away how thin the lining was. And within 6 months, it had already torn and frayed, and I have to get it relined again. But this is when I appreciated just good quality material and the change in the quality of lining that they're putting in. And hence I would say they're more your occasion bags and not an everyday bag that I used this when I was going to work for years. I'd just rotate this with another bag that was more your grain. And this has stood the test of time. And it's just aged beautifully. The leather panels have just gotten softer. The hardware has never been replaced. It's never tarnished. It has never broken or given me any problems. And it's just remained intact, smooth, swift movement. The leather itself, or rather the zip itself, is heavily weighted, so it's substantial, so it fits comfortably with the rest of the bag. But if you have any further questions about this whole quality segment, anything else you'd like to know, let me know as always in the comments down below. But don't forget to share and subscribe. I have a lot of other content coming out within the quality and also the handbag space, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. As always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.